Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive community organiser and activist. And here on my YouTube page, I like to make little videos talking about topics I'm interested in. Seeing that we're getting into Pride Month, today I want to throw my hat into the ring, talking about a topic I've been seeing a fair few other people recently begin the yearly ritual of commentating on. Whether or not there should be kink-related stuff at Pride events. The way I see it, on the topic, there's two basic camps of argument people tend to fall into. Some people say kink belongs at Pride events because it's a valid expression of the diverse sexualities being celebrated, and Pride events shouldn't have to or want to conform to the societal expectations of everyone else. Other people try to pull a "won't somebody please think of the children" appeal to morality or decency or something like that. Sure, whatever, you've both got some good points. But here's the thing. If you're having this conversation just for the sake of trying to convince people that your position is correct, and especially if you're having this conversation online no less, your opinion doesn't matter. Literally every single person you see online having a take on whether or not there should be kink at Pride, their opinions do not matter. And the reason why that is because the only place where having an opinion on this topic does matter is when you're actually in a room somewhere around a big table actually organising a Pride event. Whenever you get people online shouting their opinions into the void, their argument always comes with an implicit, unstated caveat that people who do actually organise events should be running them the way they want them to be run. It's always putting the onus to actually do the thing onto someone else, whoever it is out there in the world that, in this case, runs the Pride Month stuff. If you want your opinion on something like this to matter, you need to be organising. Either start your own Pride Month event, or get involved with a pre-existing one, and then have that conversation about how you think it should be run with the real people there. I don't care if you're making the best possible arguments for or against the inclusion of this, that, or anything else at Pride. If you're just talking about it online, your opinion means nothing, and you will have zero influence on what actually happens. The same goes for a lot of topics adjacent to political organising. Learn your lesson from this, or don't. While I've got the camera on, I've got one other brief little story I've been holding on to for a little while that's kind of related. A few years back now, I was pretty heavily involved with the planning of this big Pride Month dance thing. It was going to be this big indoors party type thing at night, I think adults only. But point is, we got up to the point where at the end of this brief meeting ahead of the night itself, we wanted to ask people what songs they wanted to play, and we just had people throw out a bunch of suggestions and someone wrote them down to make sure they'd end up on a playlist or whatever. And just about everyone at this meeting was a socially conscious young adult, so there was a lot of talk about, should we just go with a playlist of fun, well-known, regular dance songs, or should there try to be more emphasis on trying to center queer musical artists, for instance? And there was a subsequent back and forth about how to support queer artists that aren't necessarily just rich cis gay guys, and etc., etc. Then eventually, we got to a disagreement because someone suggested putting on one of those songs that was like an hour long and it was basically just harsh industrial noises without any lyrics the entire time, which is in its own way hilarious, but a lot of people shot that down. Then I remember, and this is actually the crux of why I wanted to tell this story in the first place, one trans woman who was there, who had been a very active volunteer organizer for this event, spoke up to really earnestly and eagerly suggest playing the Aerosmith song "Dude Looks Like a Lady." And this suggestion really split the room. A lot of the other assorted trans femmes who were there got up immediately to say, that sounds like a really bad idea. People were treating it like a bad, gross joke, and someone else got up to properly articulate a reason why she thought it was a bad idea, and they gave reasons like, I don't want to celebrate Pride to a song that even the name of sounds like a transphobic remark. And there was a lot of head nodding and affirmative murmurs heard around the room. But then, the original trans chick gets up to respond and makes the case that actually, it's very affirmative and a good choice. For one thing, she said, a lot of those 70s and 80s big hair rock bands were actually some of the first major groups to bring a lot of playing around with gendered presentation into the mainstream. All those rock groups would go around publicly with their long hair and their makeup and their painted fingernails and flamboyant drapey outfits, and they'd usually be singing an anti-authoritarian message. She pointed out that Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler was essentially the example of that kind of rocker. His whole career, he's been very consciously affecting a decidedly androgynous persona on and off stage. And, she correctly points out, it's a pretty good song. And again, there was a lot of head nodding and affirmative murmurs heard round the room. And there was a bit of a back and forth on this for a while. The people most strenuously arguing for the song's inclusion and the people most strenuously arguing it shouldn't be included both had good points. And they had their reasons why they thought the way they did, and they all made a good case of it. Now I, for one, personally stayed out of all the argument. I didn't say a thing throughout this, because it wasn't my argument to have, and honestly I was just hoping the whole thing would wrap up soon anyway. But eventually, everyone did come to a understanding and an agreement regarding the song and whether or not it should or would be played at the event. And I'm not even going to tell you what the outcome was, because that's missing the point. You, as someone on the internet totally disconnected from the real-life events of this story, shouldn't have any stake in this. I remember this story, though, because even though it's so meandering and low stakes, I think it perfectly encapsulates so many good lessons to keep in mind if you want to get involved with even just some basic community organizing in your local area. Like how the best people to organize with are just going to be the people you meet day to day. The community that's waiting for you is literally going to be made up of the people you know and see and are friends with already. You and them can set your minds to it and do things together. Pride events, and community gardens and free shops and resource libraries and all these sorts of things are really nice to have. But they can't exist unless people put the effort into making them exist. And sometimes, in organising, there's just a lot of discussion about really seemingly trivial things. But a lot of the time, all parties on all different sides are coming at it in genuine good faith, and they've all got their own reasons as to why they have the opinions they do. And that's okay. Sometimes there isn't just one objectively correct solution to a disagreement. As corny as that may be, I think that's the best possible lesson to keep in mind, here and in a lot of aspects of life. But all this stuff doesn't matter if it's just online internet bullshit that isn't happening in the service of real, tangible, real-world organising. And above all else, everything I've said today is just observations that I've pulled out of the experience of helping to organise an event like this. You learn a lot of practical little life lessons like this as you become more and more familiar with real community building stuff. The best way to get better at community organising is simply to do it. You quickly pick up on all the basic fundamentals and you meet people and you make friends. And it all becomes a lot easier with every new project. That's all I really wanted to say today. Just a silly little anecdote, but I really wanted to share it. Once again, my name's Card. If you might want to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube page here, or just take a look at my other videos. Either way, goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.